Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Lifestyle Lifter Show. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Odhran McCorry. Odhran is an online strength and conditioning health and fitness coach who was initially from County Down, but he's currently living in Perth in Australia. Odhran, welcome to the Lifestyle Lifter Show.
Mate, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
Absolutely excited to talk all things Odhran. But before we actually get started, you're someone who's put out a lot of content, recorded well over 100 podcasts, I'm sure, at this stage. Odhran, share something about yourself that most people do not know.
Um, uh, well, that's an interesting question. You put me on the back foot, right? You're a good host when you can put someone in the back foot with the first question. I was actually talking to my coach today. Like I mentioned, we were in recording some content in a podcast studio, just getting some reels together. And I don't really push it out there, but I've got an autoimmune condition, so I've got Hashimoto's. So no idea what's caused it, if it was environmental, if it's genetic. No family members have it, but basically my thyroid is slowly eating itself. It's attacking itself. I think it's a foreign cell in the body, and so slowly my thyroid it's fine now, but slowly over the next 5 to 10 years, my thyroid is just going to slowly pack in. It's very common. I think it's 90% females normally it affects, but it's very common and it's on the rise. So just means I've got a slow thyroid and it's just going to keep getting slower over the year. So staying lean and keeping in good shape is going to continue to get harder as I age.
Oh my God, man. And so in what way would that have a potential impact on you, let's just say 5, 10 years from now?
So at the minute it's fine. I just had the script ordered for the blood test to get that
Yeah,
done. I get it done annually every 6 months to 12 months.
okay.
And at the minute it's fine. I'm just sort of like I've got the antibodies there, so there's antibodies basically saying that the thyroid is a foreign cell in the body. It's dangerous and it tries to like eat it and attack it. And it's slowly breaking it down, but at the minute it's fine. Manage it just with lifestyle, mate.
Sure.
I sit relatively lean year round. I still enjoy the odd drink and all the other lifestyle based stuff, mate. But I guess I'm managing it well with food and lifestyle choices. But over the next 5 to 10 years, if that amount that the immune system is attacking the
That's it.
thyroid,
Yeah,
um, then everything that the thyroid controls gets affected in terms of energy, in terms of the ability to lose fat. If the thyroid slows down, then obviously it's harder to actually lose the fat, and you have to
yeah,
potentially get medicated. But the good news is it can be medicated. I could choose to go on medication now for it,
sure.
even though I just sort of preempt the process. But I'm trying to
I'm
hold
with
out
you,
as long
bro.
as I can with that, And
Yeah.
it could be where right now I might be in decent range, but if I took medication, I might feel 10 times better, but I don't know, and I don't want to start taking meds too early if I don't can maybe avoid it.
If you can avoid it by lifestyle measures, absolutely. I'm with you on
Yeah.
that front, Oren. And did you find this out of curiosity? How often do you check your bloods? You mentioned 6 to once a year, twice a year.
Yeah, I used to do it a lot more frequently. I used to be coached by Callum Raystrick at Pro Coach, so I was
Oh
with him
yes, yeah.
for pretty much when we moved out here. So 2018, I want to say, or 2019, probably closer to 2018. I signed up with him. I did 2 or 3 years with Cal, coached me to photo shoot shape, incredible shape. And as part of that, mate, you're just always being health conscious, working with a coach, and so he suggests some bloods at certain times of the year. But with the thyroid now, I don't do the full blood panel as often as I probably should. But with the thyroid, I'm kind of on it. It comes into my head where I'm like, oh shit, it's January. I should probably do like my annual blood test again, same way I
Yeah.
probably do the annual skin checkup living here in Australia every year. But I probably should just go and just order the full blood panel and get the full thing done at the same time just to check over. I think it's very important, mate.
Yeah, you've planted a seed there. I haven't got mine done in 9 months now since March time last year. So it's a good reminder for myself and for anyone listening. That's awesome, Oren. And obviously you mentioned there with your photo shoot and staying very, very lean year round. For any of our listeners, first of all, Oren, just to rewind it back a bit more, who don't know anything about you or yourself, would you
Yep.
mind just maybe breaking down who you are, how you got into the field in maybe 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, sure, mate. So I guess the quick version wasn't massively sporty as a kid. Still played sports with friends and everything, but wasn't really into team sports. Only really got into sports, I guess, as a sense whenever I started to go to the gym around 16. Um, no idea what I wanted to do at uni, but went and studied sports science just because it was the only thing in the whole uni prospectus that stood out to me. I was like,
That
not
had
really into
sports
sports,
in
but this sounds a bit more interesting, you know.
it.
So did that for 3 years. Became a gym instructor. Worked at a local council gym. When I was there, one of my mates said, "Listen, there's a part-time or PT course in Belfast. Do you want to share the driving? It's on a Wednesday night and a Saturday. If you want to go up on a Wednesday night, we'll go out. We'll do our course. We'll go out on the town in Belfast after. We'll drive up on a Saturday, do the practical bit or whatever. Done in 6 months." I thought, no plans to really be a PT, mate. I was working in a gym, getting a cushy sort of above minimum wage for doing absolutely fuck all work, to be completely honest. So I was kind of like comfortable. And I actually probably used it more than the other guy. He went into physio in the end, but I went into PT, opened my own studio in Newry, where I'm originally from, just outside Newry.
Yeah,
Um, and then opened my own studio, sold up, moved to Glasgow, met my wife over there, moved to
amazing.
Australia after we got married. 2 kids down here. This is our 7th year, I think, coming up. We
Seven
got our
years.
citizenship. Yeah, man, 2 kids. Like that's me in a nutshell. I'm trying to get it as condensed as possible, but that's pretty much me in a nutshell, man.
And what made you close down the doors of the gym and move online? Was there like any moment there that you just decided this was for you?
Um, Well, I've done online since 2014. So basically, when I moved back from uni, met a girl. As these things happen, mate, breakups happen. I decided to get coached for physique. I hired my first physique based coach. Got lean, and the process of that got into bodybuilding. Decided to do a few courses in the UK. And at that stage, I was opening my gym. I was kind of the big fish. Like, it was a small studio, mate. I'm not trying to act like I had this massive
Yeah,
facility or anything. But when I went to the UK, I went and seen London. I met a friend in London, and she was showing me around, and the lights and everything around Christmas. I was like, a little tight. Even though I'd been to Liverpool, it just wasn't the same. I was like, there's something mad about this city. It's just unreal. So I was going to move to London, decided to sell up the business, managed to sell it, which I was surprised I could do. Like, I had the knowledge of how to sell a business at that age.
amazing, man.
Sold that, gave me enough money to move to Glasgow. And basically, yeah, my mate said, "Why are you moving to London? You know nobody there. Like, why don't you just come to Glasgow? I'll get you a job in a gym." And the rest is history, mate. So from then,
Deadly.
I've still been doing PT, but I've also been doing the online alongside
Awesome.
that. And then 2 years ago, mainly went online, or I just had an office in the gym. And then last year, I gave it up, gave up the office space. I'm just solely online with no gym presence at all.
Deadly, deadly. And Oren, from your content, you specialize obviously in helping busy working professionals who a lot of listeners of this podcast would fall into that bracket. But you also specialize not only busy working professionals, but also for executives too. So
Mhm.
let's just kind of talk about, we'll say, fat loss for working professionals, for executives
Yeah.
who have a, quite a time packed schedule. Maybe they're working 40 to 60-hour weeks plus, and they need to get some exercise in with a limited amount of time. First of all, Oren, why is fat loss actually challenging for busy workers and executives? What are some of the common challenges that you see that people who inquire to you run into?
So time's a big issue, right? So the average person that I work with is a busy professional. They're trying to climb the corporate ladder, or they're already at the top of the ladder, mate. They're CEO, they're the founder, the managing director of a company. Um, I normally, mate, it's the same sort of thing that happens when a mother has their first baby, right? Where suddenly they get pushed to the bottom of the totem pole, right? I used to notice it a lot working with females in the normal fat loss world, where like from the minute the kids are born, the kids come first and the mums come last. And it's the same thing with the corporate world, except it's the business comes first and they come
Yeah,
last. It's probably business highest on the totem pole, family just below that, and then they're last. So like they've got to do
yeah,
everything that they need to do for business. They've got to then get home in time to have the family time. And obviously that's time they're going to enjoy too. It's not like they're being a slave to their family. But
yeah.
then that they're working 60 hours a week and then getting home and doing the kids, and then what time have they got left in the day? So I think that's the biggest challenge probably is finding out what's going to fit in with them. What do they have available? Do they need to train at home? Do they need to train at the gym? Is there a gym at the office? Is there something that they can do with their schedule? And a lot of the time, it's just setting the non-negotiables. It's the same, I guess, as anyone, mate. It's just what works for that person. How can they set it as a non-negotiable so it's just easy for them to follow through on?
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a, first of all, you brought up a really important point there. My first ever mentor, Jonathan Goodman, he always said, in your life, it's very, very hard to prioritize or at least to optimize your health, your business, and also your family. Usually you can do 2 out of 3, but 3 out of 3 is quite a challenge. So I think that is the
Yeah,
perfect
yeah,
example there. And assume we all want to hold on to our relationships, particularly if you have a family, it's either the business or the fitness that has to take its back foot. What are
yeah.
other, so aside from, let's say, time management, which we can definitely go into like some time management tips there, or on from your podcast on the effective or the effective eggs. Sorry, I'm getting my
The
words
elite
mixed up here.
executive.
The elite
Yeah,
executive, and also from the O show, you speak about a lot about stress and the impact that actually stress has on fat loss. Would you
yeah.
mind just diving into that topic in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so like one key thing is, heart rate variability, and it's getting a lot of traction lately. But the simplest way to think about it is it's not your resting heart rate. Most people say, "Oh yeah, I track that. It's sitting at, 55 beats per minute." And I'm like, no, 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 that's the wrong thing that your watch is tracking, or you need to find out where to find the heart rate variability. So that's basically a snapshot into when your heart beats, it doesn't go single beats. Like 60 beats a second isn't one beat every second. It's going to be double beat and then a pause and then one beat and then a pause. It's going to have all these different numbers. It might be a zero point 0.6 variation, then a 1.2 second, then a 0.4, and then a 1 second. It's going to vary. And don't ask me why a higher variation is better. I still need to do the research on that. But the more variation we can see in that and the higher number on your HRV, generally the better our recovery is going to be, generally the better our health's going to be. And that's just a really good indicator of how you're managing your stress. Basically, we get into this fight or flight mode, right? If right
Yeah,
now somebody came up to the door or banged on the window, right? I'm gonna jump. If he's got a knife, I'm either gonna fight him off or I'm gonna run, right? That's the
yeah,
fight or flight response. After that, though, I need to be able to calm down. So I need to go from
sure.
that sympathetic fight or flight mode where I'm either gonna tackle the guys who doesn't cause harm to my family, or I'm gonna run to lock the door and we'll try to keep us all safe,
Amazing.
right? There's gonna be a
Yeah.
fight or a flight. But after that, I need to be able to chill out. Like half an hour goes, the threat's gone. I need to be able to be back into that parasympathetic mode. So the HRV, if it's and obviously there's going to be variations in this because everyone's number is specific to them. Some people may never reach a really high number, but the higher your number, the more you're going to be able to go from that sympathetic fight or flight mode into that parasympathetic rest or digest mode. And people who have a chronically low number who can't increase that are normally like, I hate to say this because obviously every number is specific to the person, but a lot of the times you'll find that they are just in this underlying sympathetic mode all the time. They're always in a low
Yeah.
level fight or flight mode where they're not really, there's no peaks and they don't feel stressed, but they're not quite in that parasympathetic mode, or they're not down as low as they should be to properly maximize their recovery.
Interesting. Very interesting. How do you track and monitor that?
Just the simple HRV score. So I've got my Aura ring on me. The Apple Watch will do it. The Whoop will do it. I think Fitbit even do it now, mate, which shows you
Yeah.
how far Fitbit have came along. Even if air quotes entry level watches are now adopting this technology, it shows you how big it's becoming.
Wow.
Um, and it's probably one of those ones that we probably should all keep an eye on because it is linked with more longevity, lower stress, better recovery, and generally better health.
And what would an example of, we'll say, a quote unquote a normal, I know it's obviously individualized or, but what would an
Yeah.
example of, we'll say, like a normal score versus a suboptimal score be?
Um, so I don't know whether the number of 30 has just been bandied about with other people I've had on my podcast, and maybe that's influencing me, but 30 milliseconds, 30, yeah, 30 ms, which I think is milliseconds,
Yeah,
is a good score to aim for. Lower than that, like I've had people who are lower than that who they're it's hard for them to get it higher. But obviously that's specific individuals.
sure.
Some people are
Yeah,
just chronically low; they can't get out of that. Some people, mate, the average person is probably somewhere between 30 and 70, I want to say, like a normal person with decent health who's on my books. The other people who are highly stressed or maybe have that lower level anxiety or lower level stress, um, and are maybe in that fight or flight more than they need to be, would be that 30 or under. But to show an example, mate, like my
Interesting.
numbers can range from, I don't know, 120 to I've had 197, which I haven't seen anyone else post a 197 before. And that's just huge. But just because I can get to 197 for whatever reason doesn't mean that like other people should aim for that. Some people hear my scores, like clients, and they're like, shit, you're at 130. Why am I only at 30? Like, what can I do better? But that's not the point. It's not about comparing the scores. It's about, can we get that person's 30 to 32 or a 34? And over
Sure.
time, can that be the new baseline? And can we hit a 50, but maybe the average is pulled back down to 30, 38? But are we getting those higher numbers at different stages, you know?
Interesting, very interesting, Oren. I'm actually reading a book which kind of touches on that stress, that parasympathetic, the rest and digest. It's called, I don't know if you've read it, The Body Keeps the Score.
I've heard of it. I don't think I've read it, but I've definitely heard of it. It's one of those ones that a lot of people say is very good.
Absolutely, man. And just a lot of what you're saying there is actually covered in it. So would highly recommend about halfway through now. It's really interesting. Or
Yeah,
and tell
right.
me this then. Obviously with stress management, that is one thing you mentioned, heart rate variability. In what way then does sleep, or for a lot of people listen, potentially lack of sleep and not getting optimal amount of sleep, impact upon stress and even fat loss?
Mate, sleep is the one thing that if we all could do more of it, like it's the one thing that regardless of how good we are, I mean, I could know the best training protocol, the most fancy nutrition protocols, get everything calorie matched, every single micronutrient matched. If I just get you to sleep more, you're going to have more effects downstream. You're going to naturally have less stress. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be in a better mood. You're going to have generally lower body fat because that's whenever we get that big release of growth hormone. So we grow more muscle and we lose less fat when we get that big release. And we'll just be generally better people, I would say, if we just get more sleep. So I think that's the number one thing that most of us neglect. And I said this on my podcast as well, but Matt Fraser, I think it's no, it's not Matt Fraser. I think it's Matt
Matthew Walker,
Walker.
is it? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's
So he's
class.
got a really good quote about if sleep wasn't something that we had to do all the time, like it's something we have to do to live, we would probably be buying it as an illegal supplement because it has so many performance enhancing benefits and mood enhancing benefits. We would probably crave it if it wasn't something that we had to do every day. So because it's something we have to do every day, too many people are neglecting it without thinking about the
100%.
performance benefits, you know?
And as Walker said, by the way, anyone listen, I would highly recommend you listen to the podcast he did with Joe Rogan. That was my first introduction to him. One of my mates actually, because at the time I remember that actually. Or speaking of Matthew Walker, I was meeting one of my mates for coffee, and I was kind of wearing with a sense of pride that I only get 6 hours sleep. I go to bed at like half
Yeah,
12 and
yeah.
get up at half six, and not a bother on me at all. But if you're living in that state, you're probably just used to living in a fatigue state that you don't even know what a normal quote unquote night sleep feels like. But as you said, once you get a good night's sleep, it's like upgrading your car to a Ferrari. You don't want to go back to the old model again because you know what a better version of you feels like. But an interesting thing that Matthew Walker also spoke about, just to circle back to what you were saying, even if you are, as you said, in that calorie deficit and you're losing weight, 70% of the weight that you lose with the lack of sleep comes from lean muscle mass as opposed to actual fat. And obviously, the ultimate goal of being in the calorie deficit is we try to maintain as much muscle mass as possible while losing as much fat.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're not optimizing your sleep, you can just become a smaller and skinnier fat version of yourself if you're losing too much muscle in the absence of fat.
That's huge, man. And who wants that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a game changer. What would you say then, Oren, are some stress and sleep management strategy? If we dive into both of those, maybe let's just first start out with stress because that's obviously huge. What are some of your favorite ways for both yourself and for any of your clients to actually manage or reduce stress?
Yeah, so I think with stress management, stress reduction, mate, it can be hard, right? Like, things are gonna happen, like getting cut off in traffic or like I've got two kids, mate. Kids can get on your nerves at times, or you could get an email that you say, oh fuck, like it's hard to just remove that stress component. But I guess the key things that are normally touted, mate, is breathing, meditation, and journaling. So journaling, as somebody put on my podcast, mate, it's not the dear diary, dear Oren. I had a great day. Today I did this. Like that's not what journaling is, you know. Journaling is about, writing down what happened to you and how did it make you feel, and then trying to work out why it made you feel. So just that an extra level of consciousness about why things are happening around you. And maybe when you start to do that, you can realize, well, why did I get stressed? Right? Because I had a big presentation, and yes, I'm behind on the deadline, or I've got a podcast.
Yeah,
I was highly stressed because shit, I don't know what Adrian's gonna ask me today.
yeah.
He hasn't sent me an outline. Like I'm stressed. He's going to ask me something that that's going to trip me up. You know, it could be anything, mate. Or it could just
Yeah,
be like that snappy moment. But like learning, well, why did I react like that? Did I react like that with the kids because I'm not sleeping well, or because I've had some bad news earlier, or is it just that I was on my phone and wasn't paying attention to them and they were asking for more and more? All these different things, mate. But journaling gives you that opportunity, and I don't do a lot of it, mate, to be honest. But those who do, say it gives you that opportunity
yeah.
to break everything down. And it's the same with breathing, mate. Like I don't know if you've seen the Chris Hemsworth documentary Limitless on
No, I
this
haven't.
Disney Plus. I think it's on Disney Plus, mate. It was for Discovery Channel. I want to say it's for Discovery Channel or National Geographic. But he's basically mad in his fitness. Like he's fucking Thor, right? One of the best physiques around. But they were talking about his stress, and his stress came mainly from his parents being pretty much broke when he was younger and not being able to afford to send him to acting school and all this stuff. So plus he's got a family, plus he has to perform in all these movies. He's getting paid what, like 10 to 20 million a movie, probably. Like he has to perform, he has to be on.
Yeah,
Plus he's got the pressure of being in incredible shape for these movies as well, right?
yeah,
So there's a
yeah.
lot of
A
stress.
lot of
And his
stressors.
stress also came from, even though he's built this empire, like the fear of losing it all, like his mom and dad did, not having anything again. So basically, they put him through a ringer of tests, and there's like five different things. And Peter Attia comes in, who's a longevity expert. Ross Edgley from the UK is in, the world's fittest
Unreal.
man.
Yeah, he's class.
Um, and they did some amazing stuff. Like they had him on. There's a brand of hotels here in Australia called Crown. They're a big global, Australia wide brand,
Yeah.
and it's one of the tallest buildings in Sydney, man. I don't even want to guess how many floors it is. It looks probably about 90 floors up. And they had him this thing where they had him walk out on a plank. Let's just call it a plank because people understand what I mean. It's just a beam of metal coming right out. He was obviously safety harnessed in for insurance reasons, but they had him heart rate monitored up, and he had to learn. The week prior was all about working with an expert on how to keep his heart rate down whenever shit goes crazy
Amazing.
around him. And imagine being up there 90 floors up and there's wind
Wow.
and there's fucking birds and you're looking down and you're like, what the fuck's going on? And basically he had to control his stress using stuff like breathing and keeping himself calm and
Amazing.
telling me he can do it. And there's loads of amazing stuff that he goes through in that. I'm not going to spoil it for your listeners, mate, but really good episode. And he does stuff with the Australian equivalent of Navy SEALs, the Special Forces over here. He does stuff where he has to go into a burning building with a training scenario that the paramedics go through. And the idea was he's got an oxygen tank on his back. So obviously he's in a scenario, there's flames everywhere, there's smoke, you can't really see. You're going to panic and start breathing heavier. But with an oxygen tank, what's the one thing that you can't do? You can't breathe faster, right?
Yeah.
So they've got him in this scenario where he has to try to control his breathing through box breathing. And that's what they specifically taught him.
Class.
So, mate, that's a really good idea of like putting somebody in that pressure cooker of stress and seeing how they adapt to it. I mean, we're not always going to perform at our best with it, but being aware of journaling, breathing, mindfulness, meditation, all these different things like can help with stress. Plus, exercise, spending time with the family, getting out in nature, all those other good things that we
Absolutely.
probably take for granted. Not drinking alcohol because that's going to cause you stress like the next day. All those different things, mate, can lead to a lower stress environment.
100%. I think you touched a ton of powerful points there. Like again, actually going back to that book, The Body Keeps the Score, they mention about obviously breath work, and one thing that the author emphasizes really, really slowing down that exhale. Like above all
Yeah, yeah,
else, trying to get your exhale longer if possible than the inhale. So and
yeah,
as you said there, box breathing. As Oren mentioned, so when you're actually working out, that's a form of stress. And you want to send the signal to your body that when you finish your workout that it's safe again. It's okay. We can breathe and we can
yeah,
relax. And one of the most simplest and most effective ways to actually go from a sympathetic stress state to a parasympathetic rest and digest is to do what Oren said, do box breathing. Essentially, you just lie on the floor, you elevate your feet onto a box, and just take maybe if it might just be 3 minutes of deep breathing of 5 second inhale, 5 second exhale. Repeat that. Such an effective and very, very simple way to reduce that stress. You mentioned time in nature. That's probably one of my favorite ways, man. Like just sometimes when I'm feeling stressed, just go for a walk and God,
Yeah,
ideas start
yeah.
coming to you. You realize some of the stuff you're worrying about isn't that actual stressful at all. Personally, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I feel a lot of my stress that comes from just scheduling and planning. And that once I actually have like a good plan in place for, okay, just getting my calendar organized, I hear you
Yeah.
people listening to your podcast too. I take calls at this time, I have boundaries at this time, I don't take calls after this time. I'm going to leave the phone down here, get to bed at this time. I find personally on a personal note that just having a routine and schedule really helps.
Absolutely, mate. And that's where most people talking about the working professionals, their day's a shit show, mate. They wake up and start reacting from the minute they wake up. There's no
Yeah.
planning the day before. Like there's no thought goes into their day. They don't have clothes laid out. They don't know when they're going to train. They show up at work. They drop the kids at school because they know, but they're rushing out the door with no real plan. There's no I think a lot of people could do with taking more of like not a complete military standpoint, but like think of that routine and regiment of
Yeah.
somebody. If you watch GI Jane or one of these army sort of movies, it's that sort of regiment that if we have something like a plan of what do we do in the lead up to bed, what do we do first thing in the
100%.
morning, like what do we do in work, when do we do certain tasks, and what's a non-negotiable task. Even just having that sort of stuff nailed me and having a loose guideline can be massive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Or and this has been amazing so far. And I just want to touch on a few other points. We obviously spoke about fat loss for busy executives and workers in the sense that sleep and obviously stress management is important. What are some then like just practical ways for first of all dietary interventions for someone who might have to, travel quite frequently? What are some ways that they can eat quote unquote healthy while on the go?
Um, Yeah, I guess there's plenty of restaurants around, right, that do
Yeah.
decent stuff. Like me, even look at a Subway, you can get a bloody salad bowl in Subway with double meat and the full compendium of colors that you're gonna want. You can beetroot, greens, reds with tomatoes. You can get a full works from Subway, and they're on in every major city, mate. They're probably on every street corner, like in these cities. So, like, I always try to be you just have to do a bit of planning, mate. It's the same idea. Like a lot of people just act like when they travel, especially if it's for work, that I'm traveling for work, like I've got things out of my control. Yes, you might have things out of your control, like people might want to take you out for lunch, but when you go to lunch, there's going to be the option of the burger or the fish or the steak and greens. Like there's always an option no matter what you do, mate. There's always the option not to drink or to say, I'm only going to have one today because I've got something else on, or just taking the water and just reality, mate, nobody gives a shit. Like after 5 minutes, oh, you're not drinking today? Nah, I'm doing my own thing. Who's gonna mention it again after 5 minutes, really? Like we're not 16-year-olds all egging each other on. Oh, come on, have a drink. It's not gonna happen. So you just need to plan ahead, mate. Worst case scenario, there's meal prep services in nearly every major city now as well. All you need to do is Google meal prep Perth, meal prep Dubai, meal prep friggin' the back end of Cork or wherever it is, mate. Like you find somebody who's going to cook a meal to whatever macros that you need, or you can get them delivered. I don't know about in Dubai and even back home in Ireland and that, mate, but like over here, you get multiple companies who can do it.
Yeah,
Most servos have like a healthy meal that might not be as close to your macros as you want, way more fat than you want, but you could get like a microwavable chicken burrito sort of bowl, ping it in the microwave. It's got 40 grams of protein, 20 grams of fat, 20 grams of carbs, and you're sorted, mate.
you're
So
sorted.
as
Yeah.
long as you plan for it, mate, you're pretty much covered. I actually did see something. Have you seen Stan Efferding from what's the diet he does?
Oh, the
Vertical diet.
the vertical diet. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why it came up on my thing the other day. I think he was doing a shared post with one of these blood testing companies that I must follow. And he talked about, his monster mash. And I think that's what locked it in my head. I was like, what the frig is monster mash? But he basically says that he's got this meal called monster mash, which is basically like rice, um, beef, um, chicken stock, like a bone broth sort of idea, and some veggies. And he says when he's on the road, he just gets one of those thermos sort of things.
Yeah.
He obviously the stock and all's in it to keep it warm. Puts the
Unreal.
rice, everything else, all mixes it all up. That keeps it warm for most of the day when he's traveling. So if he's out and about, and he's got meetings, and he's got multiple companies. He's a busy man. He's an executive himself. He's the world's strongest bodybuilder or some madness.
Yeah.
Like that's his little thing. It's just like a thermos. And I thought I've got one of the Yeti bottles here from my water. I got it for Christmas to keep my water cold. It's the same
Deadly.
idea, like just a
Yeah.
smaller version of that, but you've got some liquid in there to keep it warm most of the day. And you've got
Unreal,
rice,
man.
you got beef, you've got veggies, and like I was like, that's actually a really good idea. Like if you taught somebody how to do that meal, like there's no excuses, you know?
Absolutely. I think I think a lot of people are just looking for an easy way to opt out. That, oh, I work a
Sure.
lot on the go, and as a result of this, it's just hard to eat healthy. Like, yes, it's might be harder for you to prepare your meals, but as you said, there's all these options, whether it's Subway and just something else as well. Actually, I was listening to this on one of the courses that I'm doing. Like eating heated food, it is somewhat of a luxury. And
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes, so like, it is love. I love a freaking warm meal too, but there have been times where, because of one thing or another, I didn't have access to a microwave. You just have to have it cold, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do things that are not always going to be optimal if you are really serious about upping your game there. And as you mentioned, there's so many options, whether it's meal prep, you can just go to Aldi above all else. A
Yeah.
very simple way. Get a Nutri-Quick meal which hold it safe for a week, and you've got a ready-made meal there. So,
There we
or I
go, mate.
think
Yeah.
I think there's so many options as you mentioned. What about two final topics? So in terms, then that's obviously about eating healthy on the go. What about some practical ways to fit workouts in a busy schedule, or what would be some advice you've given that?
Um, I guess this is something we all struggle with, mate, and myself as well. Like, I've got some kettlebells in the shed outside, that don't really get used, to be honest. I always say, like, if I can't get to the gym, I'll just pick the kettlebells out. But we can always do something, mate. I'm from a bodybuilding background, so even though I work with executives now and I'm time poor doing all the stuff I do running the business, um, I still think that I need to get to the gym for a workout. But worst case scenario, like I was saying to one of my clients today, he's based in Japan, but he's visiting his mother in the USA. And he said, mate, I just probably need to do some push-ups or something. So right after a call, I messaged him saying, you're going to do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups a day for the next week or two when you're in the US. Don't worry about running because you don't have running shoes with you. Don't worry about getting to the gym because his mother's ill, unfortunately. So he's like staying by her bedside. If I was her bedside, he can still knock out 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. And that was sort of his idea. And I was just like, mate, this is your non-negotiable over the next 2 weeks. Let's
Deadly.
make this happen. And like
Absolutely.
you can always find something to do, mate. And I'm guilty of this too. Like we're all human. Like I still want to drink the beer and eat the shit food, and frequently do. Like I'm not like a robot, right? And it's the same thing with training. Like sometimes I'm just not going to train, like the average person, but doesn't mean that I can't do something, and I can't always try to optimize it. And even if I can't get 30 minutes in the gym, or can't get a full 60 minutes in, can I get 30 minutes in? If I can't
Absolutely.
drive to the gym and I'm really tight on time, can I pull the bands out? Can I pull the kettlebells out? Can I just do some push-ups as a minimum just so I can get a pump and feel good and actually move my body, or just get up for a bit more walking between meals, or get out and about, walk to the coffee shop instead of driving if I'm back to back doing work. All these little things, mate, which add up.
Something is better than nothing.
Mate, it doesn't need to be perfect, right? It doesn't need to be perfect.
Absolutely.
It's, mate, now if you're in a prep and like you're dieting for like when I've done a photo shoot, the gym's like your non-negotiable. Like I'm getting to the gym regardless. I'll put everything else off. Like the food, seem non-negotiable. Like I'll not sneak those little chocolates. I'll not have the booze. It's a different mindset, but you know, it's finding what works for you. And if it is important to you and you're in a big fat loss phase, you will find what works for you. You
You'll
will make it
find a
work on
way.
the road with your food, with your training. You will get something in every day. I mean, that's the beauty. Like you're a coach yourself. I'm a coach. Like when people have us in their corner, we're just a message away. Hey, I haven't been training this week. Like, what can I do? I'm short on time. Like that guy today. Like, it's just telling us what is going on so we can give suggestions and actually coach them rather than them trying to do the perfect thing and try to get to the gym every day. Then lose confidence when they're not doing that. And then that sets them back further into that, fuck it mentality.
100%. Oh, man, you're preaching here. I absolutely love all of this, and but it's that mindset, that mentality that you have to ingrain in yourself that something really is better than nothing. Because I can even
Hmm.
relate with myself and some of my clients. One guy, for instance, he's doing a thesis. He works like, I don't know, 12-hour plus days. He's a family to take care of. He's studying up until like midnight, even burning beyond the midnight oil, up again at 5 or 6. Not very healthy at all, like just when it comes to sleep and lifestyle. But I just asked him, as you mentioned, stacking wins and building confidence. There's a great story in James Clear's book Atomic Habits, which I'd highly recommend anyone to read, where a guy lost over 100 pounds inside 9 months, and instead of doing one 30-minute workout a week, he did 6 5-minute workouts. He didn't build a whole lot of
Unreal.
muscle. He didn't burn a whole lot of fat in those 5 minutes. But one thing which Oren, you'll freaking agree with, and as you're saying there, consistency trumps perfection. And what he did master
100%,
was
man.
showing up for himself. And even just 5 minutes, like just that act of, okay, I'm just going to do 5 minutes. You're stacking wins, you're stacking confidence. And sometimes that five could turn into, as you said, a 10, it could be a 15, it could be a 20. But it all starts with just taking that first 5 minute action.
Sure, mate. And the main thing with that as well is it starts first thing in the morning whenever you set that alarm and getting up on that first alarm and building
Amen.
that confidence by doing that friggin' the hardest thing of the day, mate. Like especially mate after Christmas, right? We've all been sleeping in for like a week probably. We haven't as much work to do and different things. Like getting the when the alarm goes at 5 a.m. that first time, it's friggin' hard to get back up after even an extra hour per day of sleep. But getting up, making sure your feet hit the floor at the right time, that's you fulfilling the hardest thing of the day and what you promised yourself you would do when you set that alarm, right? And that's the same thing. If you stack those little wins daily, if you can do that and get up on your alarm first time every day without snoozing it, you're setting yourself up to continue to win. Whereas if you keep hitting
Amen.
snooze, you're stacking those losses straight from the get go.
Oh, hey, I love that again, man. We're very, very aligned here on some of our principles and philosophy. That as I think Mark Twain, one of his quotes is, "Eat the frog no, eat the frog the first thing in the morning. The rest of the day gets easier. And if you have two frogs to
Yeah.
eat, eat the biggest one, eat the biggest one first."
Yeah. Absolutely, mate.
Oren, just to wrap it up, so what we'll do is, first of all, Oren, is there anything? So we're at the start of the new year, first episode I'm recording of 2024. Is there anything you're particularly excited about this year for yourself in a personal or professional standpoint?
Um, I guess it's more the same, mate. 2 years ago we sort of the business is still the same. We still work with people who come in from Instagram. We have coaches who specialize in just body transformations, people who do the executive coaching. I've grown the executive side now where it started off 2 years ago and I had, 30 to 50 clients who were just transformation based people. And zero executive clients. And then I've built that now to where it's the opposite where it's probably like 10 people who are just normal people who want to lose some weight and tone up. And a lot of it is the executives now, and I'm working with some corporations. So I'm getting a bit of traction. I'm
Awesome.
doing my podcast, I'm getting some traction locally and internationally. And it's just more of the same, mate, just trying to do everything possible to continue growing and seeing where we end up in terms of impact, authority, goals. Like there's going to be financial goals that will come from doing a really good job at that. There's going to be like challenges in terms of leading the team and leading myself and still being around for the family and doing all that. And I think it's just more of the same, mate, just keep doing that and keep showing up and doing that, mate. But other than that, it's just trying to lock in and just trying to be the best version of myself this year and train for myself, still be that family man, show up for clients, show up for staff, show up for everyone else. And yeah, just try to be as consistent as I can, I guess, across all areas.
Amazing, man. I love that. I like growth mindset there. After growth mindset 101. I love to hear it, and that's a great way to wrap things up, man. This has been awesome. Now we spoke with everything from stress management, getting your bloods done, everyone, checking your HRV to managing your sleep, training, nutrition on a busy schedule. We covered a lot, Oren, and the final question I ask all of my guests, seeing as this is the Lifestyle Lifters show, Oren, what's your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Oh, that's a really good question, mate. I guess finding out what's important to you, sticking to those goals. If you set a goal, like you know why it's important to you, you're gonna have a process behind how you're gonna achieve that thing, and just setting yourself up for success. Like setting the goals, sticking to it and then just following through, mate, for yourself and not deviating and not giving up and not sort of not settling, just not settling for where you're at and just saying, no, I'm meant for more. Like that growth mindset you just mentioned, like ticking all the boxes, being that for me, the dad, being the business owner, being the husband, being the best version of me, like that is living your best life, really, isn't it? And always trying to like not settle, be happy with what you've got, but also not settle and say that you want more as well, and not letting excuses creep in that sense.
Deadly, that compounding effect.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. For Oren, for all of our listeners who want to learn a bit more about yourself, about your content, or just simply what you offer, where's the best place to send them? And I can post this also on the show.
Instagram's fine, mate. I'm on there a little bit every day, not so much. Be honest, I do more scrolling than actually posting my own content at the minute. I do a lot more on LinkedIn. But if you just type my name in, so Oren, Odhran, McCorry, two C's, two R's, and then see him on LinkedIn, mate. Actually, on LinkedIn, if you go to linkedin.com/in/executive health coach, I've changed the URL so people can find me pretty easy on there.
Awesome, awesome. I'll post the links to that, and I'll post a link to your podcast as well in the show notes. Or
Brilliant.
for anyone,
Appreciate
for
that,
all
man.
of our podcast listeners out there, or man, this has been amazing. Great episode as always, and great touching base with you, bro.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, have a great day.